Credible leaks are telling us that the ROG Ally will be $700, and I don't mean the one with the less performant chip, I mean the good one. The good ROG Ally may just be available for pre-order at $700 in just about 2 weeks here, and I wanted to chat about it. I mean, it raises some important questions, right? How will Valve react? Will people actually buy this? How is that price even possible, and is this a good thing? I want to talk about all that, at least a little bit, but of course you should let me know what you think of those questions down in the comments. Do you think Valve will lower the price of the Steam Deck? Do you think this is a good thing, or do you think it stifles the market? I'm going to try to respond to as many of you as I can. And listen, I'm not going to spam this channel with Ally videos, but I wanted to make this one literally because I wanted to make this one. Like, this development is exciting to me. Before the Steam Deck, I was really into learning about all the different handhelds, retro handhelds, and x86 handhelds alike. I desperately wanted to get my own x86 handheld, but for a long time I wasn't willing to spend that much money. I just watched videos from the Fox and Retro Game Core and others, and I just lived vicariously through those videos and through those creators. Finally, I saved enough money and I caved and I bought the GPD Win Max. It was a good chunk of change, but it immediately became my daily driver. I used it more than my consoles, and I used it more than even my desktop PC. There were some problems, but by and large, I was happy. Still, I felt like if those problems were fixed, this could be the sort of thing that a lot of people could get really interested in. I felt like handheld PC gaming could become huge. And then the Steam Deck was announced, and it just fit everything that I was already thinking of. I got so invigorated by that I genuinely couldn't bear it. That's why I started this channel, just to talk about my excitement. But you know what happened after that? I didn't get quote unquote excited for any other handheld since then. Other handhelds have been good. I really enjoyed the Eye and Neo 2, for example, but I wouldn't say I got excited. So that's been nearly 2 years where the only thing that's kept my interest week after week has been the Steam Deck. And that hasn't changed, but I kind of like that I'm also hyped for the ROG Ally 2. And you know, my excitement levels for the Ally have been a bit up and down since the initial April Fool's Day announcement, but this leak, about a $700 price point, has my hype reaching peak levels. Put it this way, I don't expect to get a review unit, and I'd be fine not ever doing a review video on this channel, but $700 is a price point where I'm willing to buy it for myself and have something that can get much better performance than the Steam Deck. One person that commented on my video recently said you can't play a spec sheet, and they're absolutely right, but there are times where I would like better performance, and the Z1 Extreme APU from AMD seems like it might help me for certain games. So that's why the price point leak is important to me, at least. At the end of the day, I'm just into this scene as much as a lot of you folks are, so it's kind of cool to get invested into another launch. But where did this leak come from anyway? Well, there are two sources. The first and most credible is from the Twitter account Snoopy Tech. At 6:36 p.m. my time, he tweeted that the Z1 Extreme version of the ASUS ROG Ally will be $699.99. I didn't know of Snoopy Tech before the Ally was announced, but since then he has been very credible with his leaks. I mean, look at this. Back on April 11th, he tweeted that the Ally is coming sooner than you expect, and 3 days later, on April 14th, the official tweet from the ASUS ROG account basically said the same thing, quote, "and it may be sooner than you expect," end quote. Not only that, but like I said, the original tweet was made on April 11th, and we later found out that the full announcement date is May 11th. Additionally, Snoopy Tech has said that this is when pre-orders will open, and these could all be coincidences, but I tend to think not. By the way, shout out to Gecht on the Fan Deck Discord who pointed out some of these things to me. Additionally, I have a pet theory that some of these leaks are intentional and initiated by ASUS as some sort of guerrilla marketing, but that's a whole other story. The point is, Snoopy Tech has been reliable so far. Then there was also a second source that came less than a day later. At Wicked Coombs posted this picture of a leaked Best Buy page with the same price. Again, this is still the Z1 Extreme, and in this case, it's 512 gigabytes of storage and 16 gigabytes of RAM. Interestingly, this Twitter account also seems to imply that this is an intentional leak when he says, quote, "they took it down after the planned oopsie," end quote. I'm not as certain of the reliability of this source, and I don't know of anyone else that saw the Best Buy page while it was still in that state, but it's interesting nonetheless. Even removing that second source, I would say that the Snoopy Tech source alone gives me confidence that this is going to be the actual price that will be announced here in 2 weeks. So what does it all mean? The first question everyone's asking, of course, is how is this possible? And ever since the ROG Ally was announced, people have been sort of echoing the sentiment that Valve is losing money on the Steam Deck, but I think that's a bit of a misconception, or at the very best, it is unconfirmed speculation. In fact, you may have seen my YouTube short by now on this subject. Basically, I think this belief stems from an interview where Gabe Newell said that they've had to be aggressive in terms of pricing on the deck, and that the price point was painful but critical. So then people take this quote as well as their understanding of the console model, where the console is the loss leader and much of the cost is made up in game sales, and then they came to the conclusion that the Steam Deck is losing money for Valve. But Gabe never said what painful meant. It could just mean razor thin margins, even if it's not losing money. Not only that, but this interview was from 2 years ago and a lot has changed since then. But there's one more thing I did not say in my video about that price point. There's another competitive advantage that Valve has over Ayaneo, GPD, and others, and that's the ability to place extremely large orders of chips. Presumably, the more units you can buy, the better price you can get. Ayaneo and GPD can't compete with that amount of units that Valve can order, but maybe ASUS can, especially if these APUs are going to be used by ASUS on more than just the Ally. Presumably, they'll use these same APUs to power laptops too. And here's the other thing I've been thinking about. Unlike Valve, ASUS already has a robust supply chain and distribution system in place. They've already done all the legwork to get into retail stores like Best Buy and Micro Center. So presumably their cost for distribution is going to be a lot lower than Valve's, and they can leverage their existing network to make the process a lot easier. These little things add up, and I think that's how ASUS is able to set the price so competitively, which leads to the next question of how will Valve react? First of all, I've already said that I don't think Valve sees this as a bad thing, and I don't think of the Ally as a Steam Deck killer. I think Valve wants to onboard as many people onto PC gaming as possible, regardless of how we get there. So I think this is great news for them, and in fact, I would go as far as to say that this is a marker of the Steam Deck's success. Valve essentially created a new market, and why wouldn't other manufacturers want to jump in once they see that there is potential success to be had? But does this change anything that Valve actually does? Like, does it encourage them to make a Steam Deck revision with a new APU or an OLED screen? Or does it maybe encourage them to drop the price of the Steam Deck? I'm not sure on either of these, to be honest. My gut tells me that it doesn't change Valve's timelines for revisions. They're going to stick to whatever timeline they already had, I would imagine. I could see them doing a permanent price drop, but even then, I wouldn't be surprised if the price stayed the same for at least another year or so. I've kind of been looking at the console cycle as a model for what I will expect of the Steam Deck cycle. I think Sony and Microsoft aren't motivated to drop their prices based on what's happening in the PC market. Likewise, I don't think that the potential success of the Ally impacts the deck too much. So in that case, my gut tells me that the market forces won't cause Valve to feel the pressure to reduce the price. But really, this is all uncharted territory. So I'm just as interested as everyone else to see where this goes. And that's why I think this is all good for gamers. With the exception of some really bad PC ports lately, PC gaming has been strong and healthy, and this actually represents a new frontier for PC gaming, people buying PCs with the primary purpose to play video games. I think the argument for buying a gaming PC for a lot of folks over the years has been, you're gonna need a PC anyway, you might as well get one that can play games. But this represents something new. This is getting a PC just to play games, and correct me if I'm wrong, but that's not something we saw before the Steam Deck. A lot of you were saying Steam Deck is going to change gaming. I know I was. I think this is just more proof of that. But there is one problem though. I mentioned the speculation that pre-orders for the ROG Ally are going live on May 11th, which is 2 weeks from now, but I really don't know what to expect in terms of delivery time. Are we looking at 3 months, 6 months, a year? That can be a big difference maker for me. But yeah, thanks for listening to me ramble. Definitely let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to try to respond to as many of you as I can. And as a reward for making it to the end, here is a key. I wish I could give you all a game key, but until next time, Tech Gang out. Goodbye.